How are you doing?
Hey.
I am Steve from 1010 Music, and today I'm going to show you a little bit about our newest module, the Razzmatazz Compact Drum Synth. The Razzmatazz was a lot of fun to work on. As a drummer, I don't often get very excited about drum machines, but I really do like this one, and so let me show you why. The Razzmatazz is an 8-voice compact drum synth where each voice contains up to 2 FM oscillators and a wave sample. You can mix and match these however you like to create a really unique sound. Some of the other things that we did with the Razz, we added a macro screen, which is really easy to get to, and the macro screen is going to give you the most common controls that you might want. So you'll have pitch and bend and decay. You can control the envelope. We have a nice way to mix the oscillators and the wave file. And some built-in macros for filter and distortion. And the main setup for each pad, as you can see here, this snare pad is made of 2 FM oscillators. And inside each oscillator you can choose the waveform that you want. It can be anything from noise to any of your most common wave types. You can adjust things like the fixed pitch, where it begins, its amount of stereo phase. You have an FM amount, so each one of these oscillators are self-modulating. You can adjust the modulating pitch and the amount of FM feedback per oscillator. So the instrument dashboard here is the main setup and kind of your main controls for the Razz. And in each pad you have 2 filters, 2 envelopes, an LFO, a really nice collection of digital effects. The filters can run either in serial or parallel. They can be per oscillator, so you can use them to really dial in very succinct, very special sounds from both of them. The envelopes here can be used much like they can on our other Nanoboxes, where you have the primary envelope is envelope 1, and that controls the output of your pad or your sound. And then envelope 2 can be used to modulate anything, virtually anything inside the box. Inside the digital effects though, now this is per pad, per voice. You have some things like a resonator, and you can adjust resonator feedback. You can adjust the width and the cutoff for it. You have snap generation with some really nice snap types, so you can get a real tight kind of snap for, let's say, a snare, or you can get something a little bit wider, maybe for percussion sounds or for some non-traditional type percussion sounds. And then as well as you have these really nice distortion and bit crushing and rate crushing effects. For me, the rate crush is one of my favorite effects inside of this box, and you can modulate anything here you see with the 3 little dots or the 3 little squares. So you could assign the LFO or MIDI velocity or aftertouch to it and get some really nice rate crushing effects. The Razz features an 8-channel mixer, so 1 per voice, 1 per pad. You have control over level and volume, but you can also really easily assign or map those controls to external MIDI. So the whole idea with the Razz was to provide as much control over the sound as possible, while also providing as much access to those controls from external controllers. We use the same delay and reverb that you'll find in our other devices, but the Razz has something just a little bit special about the effects, in that while you can adjust the send amounts for, let's say, reverb or delay, at the end of the effects chain is a new cabinet distortion that Roger Lynn helped us kind of put together. And this thing is really cool. It's really special. It's got some really nice distortion types. You've got a pre and a post frequency that you can adjust. It's got a really nice comb filter, and the cabinet distortion features its very own LFO, and you can modulate all of the various parameters inside that. So it's a really nice thing that sits at the end of your effects chain, and literally anything that you put through it sounds really good.
That sounds great. Let's hear it.
So if I call up a preset here, Okay, so if we enter into the cabinet distortion, start turning that up a little bit. And you have 3 distortion types. You have artificial, a solid state, and a tube. So you can start with something very clean and pretty easy, destroy it, tear it up, and get something really kind of gritty, really gnarly from that cabinet distortion. Another thing that we chose to add to the Razzmatazz in the macro screen, so if we just head into settings here and I turn MIDI Learn on, now when you're in the macro screen, the mixer screen, the effects send screen, you can just tap a control, wiggle the external controller, and your mapping is done. It's really super easy, and you can see the changes in your incoming controllers in real time. That's something kind of new for our boxes. Even in the mixer, you can assign an external controller to volume and pan per voice. And one of the cool things about all 3 Nanoboxes, but the Raz in particular, is that you can utilize the line input on the back. You can plug any synth, any drum machine, anything that you want into it, and access that effect stack directly. So if you want to plug in, let's say, your Fireball, your Lemondrop, or any of your other synth modules, you can go direct into the line input. You can not only sample that input up to 30 seconds at a shot, but you can also add the effects, add the delay, you can add that great cabinet distortion, and you can still use all 8 voices of the drum machine.
So the audio in is an extra, it's not part of the 8 voices.
Sorry?
So your line in audio is in addition to your 8 voices.
Yeah, the line in audio is in addition to the 8 voices in the drum machine and the sequencer, which will be the next thing that I show you. I really like showing off this sequencer. The sequencer is something new. One of our people, Christine, actually, many of you might know from our forum, she's the one that came up with this thing, and I can't stress enough how really far outside the box this is. But we were able to put this tool together in a way that makes it really easy to use. So let me show you how that works. In the sequence section, you get 16 sequences. Now each of these sequences can contain somewhere between 16 and 64 steps. And what we're looking at right now are the first 16 steps of this particular sequence. But inside each step, you can see the context for every pad. So you can see a big picture of what every pad is doing on every step. And if you want to change the pad that you're sequencing or controlling, you just use the top knob, and this will, of course, sequence the kick. If you want to add some kick notes, you can just tap, or you can slide across the screen. Or if you go back into the transport and hit record, you can enter that from the external MIDI controllers. For each one of these, let me go back here to one of these, you can also adjust velocity per step. So you just dial up the pad that you want to adjust, tap the step that you want to adjust, and just turn the lower knob and get right to the velocity pretty easily. Now, I said earlier that the Nanobox is probably the deepest, the Razzmatazz rather, is probably the deepest of the Nanobox line. It has the most stuff in it. And from time to time, we found it a little bit of menu diving. And so to make that a little bit easier, we've added something called the teleporter screen. And from any place that you're at in the Raz, you can press and hold the home button, and you get directly to this screen, which takes you or teleports you directly to almost every place inside the box. So any of the important places that you can get to if you're editing velocity on a step and you want to get right to FX settings, push and hold the home button and teleport right to that. If you're inside of a sequence and you want to get back out and adjust the macros, you push and hold the home button and you can teleport directly to that. The Razzmatazz, like the other boxes, the other Nano boxes, feature a line input, a line output, a MIDI input, a MIDI output, clock in so that you can stay compatible with your Eurorack. They're USB-C powered, and on the far left there, you'll see the micro SD card. You can load samples to the micro SD card. You can also take that out and transfer what you've done or what you've sampled inside the Razzmatazz and edit or change or adjust those out in your computer.
Okay, go ahead.
All right, let me show you one last cool feature about the Razzmatazz. While I have mentioned that it's an 8-voice drum synth, this is true, but we have this extra little feature here in the upper right pad, and that is you can create and add either a sliced audio or a synced clip. Now you produce the slices and the looping outside of the Razzmatazz, like in the black box or in whatever your favorite software is. But if you set that to slice, for instance, you can step through. So here in the macro screen, you can see that you can adjust which slice you start from, and you have the same slice sequencer that's found in the black box and our bit box. And so if I just tap this one pad and keep tapping it, it should step through this sample, these slices forward, and you'll probably recognize this. So
may have heard that before.
In the upper left corner of the upper left pad, you can either turn that into a looped clip, or you can turn that into a sliced pad, and you know the possibilities are really endless. The slicing is one of my most favorite features on the Razzmatazz.
That sounds great. Wow, it does quite a lot.
Yeah, it's quite a lot. We developed the Fireball and the Lemondrop together, but the Razzmatazz took our sort of focused effort to bring all of those features together, and it was really like everything that we do here. It's really a team effort. It took all of us to get this thing and to bring it to life.
Well, it sounds great. Why don't you play me some more of it?
Very responsive to a pad. Each of the envelopes have a velocity sensitivity control, so you can really dial in per pad how much of that curve you want to take advantage of.